And man, am I happy to have in studio the man behind Bloodsport, youngest UFC champ of all time, and frankly, one of the people who I truly enjoy listening to talk about professional wrestling. Josh Barnett's here. Thank you for coming, man.
Thanks for having me. After being on Ariel's show yesterday, I've been inundated with all kinds of mostly stupid takes, but that's typical. If you have any kind of opinion, people just stop right at that and go, "Your opinion's wrong." And it's just the nature of social media these days. Nobody wants to jump on and like back up what you say. They just want to be like, well, you're wrong because I feel a certain way. It's like, all right. Well, you don't even understand the assignment, but you definitely already have an opinion. But either way, at least they're talking.
And it is funny too, because like I listen to you, and I've listened to you for years, break down wrestling, and you intellectualize it in a way, and you have very well thought out opinions from not only years of experience, but just, you're clearly a person who thinks pretty deeply about this stuff. And so it is kind of hilarious that you've got this whole well thought out, here's my opinion, here's exactly why. And the response is like, no. You go, all right. Okay.
Well, look, a lot of people were not known as they are now in their day. My favorite philosopher of all time, Friedrich Nietzsche, didn't have the popularity that him and his writing do have today. And to be honest, he was way ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think I'm ahead of the curve in any way. I don't think that anything I'm saying is revolutionary. Mm-hmm. I just think people in some ways have forgotten that a lot of these things, while we can break them down in very detailed elements, right? But still, it's very simple what it is. It's just very simple. It's just telling stories. It's triumph. It's overcoming. It's the same kind of stuff you'll find pretty much across all mythos, across all time and all peoples. Yeah. And the further you get away from that, the more trouble you're going to run into. It's just in my opinion.
I've been wanting to have an extended conversation with you for a few years now, because I'll never forget. I was on the way to WrestleMania 38 in Dallas, mm-hmm. and you had just done Rogan's show, mm-hmm. and so I downloaded it to listen to it on the plane, and you broke down for Rogan who the Goldust Trio were and kind of the origin, because so many people, you go like, when you start explaining wrestling, you go, well, Hogan dropped the big boot mm-hmm. in '84, and then here we are, and like listening to you break down who the Goldust Trio were, why it was so significant, how it started this whole thing. Dude, not only did I fall into a rabbit hole, over the course of that weekend, I ended up writing an 8-episode television series treatment about the Goldust Trio. I bought a hard copy of Fall Guys. Like, I became absolutely obsessed because of the way that you had broken it down. And, I just, from that point and since, I've been like just so hungry for that information, because like you realize that stuff that we see in 2025, you can go back close to 100 years and go like, no, it's the same, like that's where it started. And just the fact that like Toots is working with them way back then, and is traced right to Vince Sr., to Vince Jr., to it's remarkable.
Yeah, pro wrestling has changed a lot over the decades. Especially, I would say, over the last 3, even more so. But I think a lot of that is that as technology advances things in and around us and how we operate within the world, that those leaps make everything else have to take leaps too. For an example, like I haven't had a cable box, or like I cut the cord, as they'll say, like back in like 2008.
Wow.
And, I never ran a dedicated PC box just to do it. And you can set them up where they would DVR, all kinds of stuff, and even then, while storage is infinitely cheaper now, it was still not that expensive back then to run storage drives and all that. But I just wanted to get ahead of what I felt like. Well, I was tired of paying tons of money for shit I didn't even watch, and I wanted more control and the ability to get and find more obscure things, which YouTube even used to be full of even way more wackadoodle stuff. Like that's how I was able to find and watch every like Italian Mad Max Escape from New York ripoff film from the 70s and early 80s. But before I go on a tangent, anything, basically that how technology changes how we now have to operate in wrestling. So like yesterday I talked about how complex all the different rights deals and agreements and licensing and everything is with what the WWE does today.
Yeah.
And, someone's like, well, aren't you glad or wouldn't you like to also, like, hold on. They're operating on such a different level than running a wrestling show that it's really not that easy to comprehend. Now, the wrestling part of it, sure, I got that all day. But everything else that comes with it, it's crazy. But yet, one thing to consider is it might have to, because you come across a situation where, let's say, there's 10 businesses and all of them are roughly operating within the same manner. But as soon as one breaks, let's say, I wouldn't really call it the code, but like the structure of it, right? Starts offering things for significantly cheaper and more of it. And, once you jailbreak that system, then everybody else has to jailbreak it or they all go under.
That's right.
So I don't even know that the WWE, let's say, for example, would even have any option but to do it this way. Mm-hmm. Not to mention, that's just how everything is being done these days. And with that, it changes the way we interact with wrestling as a whole, especially with not just the company's presence within social media and different media outlets and as to what they put out there, but then you have to consider every single one of your talent and even people that are just working there. They all have social media too.
Right.
So how do you control that?
How do you control all this information? Yeah, there's a very clear, at one point, the narrative, the narrative was so easily constructed that you could tape a month of TV in one shot, go to the studio and record the episodes, and you've got your story building to the pay-per-view that you're only doing once every 3-4 months anyway. And you're right, now that and all these interviews
that
are
also,
happening all the time.
You can just cut your promo, right? You tape it, or you can do a live one, you can do whatever. But then, it's there, and then you move on.
Right.
Well, now nothing is, it's there and then you move on. The moving on, you could even say, would be, okay, now how does this clip get edited, put here, repurposed there, sold there? Like, you can't just be like, oh, I'm just going to cut a promo. And everyone's like, yeah, cool. Just cut this promo. That's great. Boom. Next.
Right.
No, okay. We have to probably schedule the promo drop, it just becomes so much more complex.
And how do you frame it so that it fits this, but also can look good over here? And do we need to film it with two different things?
So, like I said to somebody, even just earlier this morning, I said, look, being at like a WrestleMania, or I know being at SummerSlam on Saturday, because I'm going to go too, it is incredible. If you're Nick Khan and Triple H and these guys, and you can sit back and when they can take a breath and go, holy shit, yeah, we made this. Yeah. Along with everybody under the umbrella of this endeavor, man. This is insane. Endeavor. Yeah, I would use that. But I think, it would be something else. And who wouldn't be proud of doing such a thing? But also a side of me is like, God, that sounds so stressful. And I don't know. I mean, maybe I'd be cut out to do that sort of thing, but I think it takes a real special person to want to be a part of that. Personally, at the moment, I just love making the most out of the wrestling show that I got. Yeah.
And I mean, the amount of decision making that goes into everything, even like making the decision of going like, hey, what if we worked with Bloodsport a little bit? And this is again, you talk about wrestling changing. Like, that was not a thing that was happening 5 or 10 years ago. The idea, like, WWE was a closed system, right? And everything worked outside of it. You work outside of it, fine.
And understandably so.
Right.
I mean, every time somebody wants to, I generally don't even respond to any of this kind of stuff because it wouldn't do any good. But, you'll get people that are either, hey, get this person in. They're just so die hard about it. You can get this guy, this gal, whatever. Or, how come you don't have this? Or why hasn't this? Or they should allow that. And I'm just always like, the thing that's completely overlooked is that every athlete that is on their roster comes with a contract that has a certain value to it. that value is important not only to the valuation of the company at large, but that's an investment that they're paying into that person.
Right.
And then allowing that investment and the cost with it to be on my show, to me, is no small feat.
Right.
So it isn't just so easy. I mean, you can say that, oh, they're just a person, just let them. But when you think about everything that's tied to that athlete, then you start going, whoa, this is way heavier.
Yeah.
When you really know it all.
And you have a responsibility now to like do right by the people. We are low. I mean, you know, it's a human being, but it's also, this is our IP.
Yes.
This is somebody that we've invested in, that we've built. We're trusting you because we respect the show that you're doing and understand your vision. But there is a responsibility that goes with that.
Of course. And, you know, I take it very seriously.
Yeah.
But also with the show itself, if what we do, if I put together a match and it doesn't elevate the people within it, regardless of who won or lost, then I failed. Like, I didn't do a good enough job somewhere along the line. And you could even say, oh, it was this wrestler, that wrestler, or both wrestlers' fault for some reason. And even then I'm going to go, but I'm there to help them, to make sure that this match goes a certain way, and to help them, you know, if we're going to open the curtain a little bit, to be as prepared as possible. So again, I'm like, that's on me. And, you know, someone can say that's not always necessarily your fault, or that's a responsibility that you need to carry, but I don't see it any other way, because I built this concept as a wrestler first thing, a thing where wrestlers are going to want to be a part of this, because they're going to feel like they can do something here that they can't do somewhere else, regardless if you take ropes away or you take our rule structure or any of that stuff. It's just, if I ain't producing it, it ain't the same thing.
Yeah, and I think Bloodsport's a pretty remarkable thing, in the sense that I think as wrestling fans, it attracts people that a lot of whom have never watched fighting styles like this.
Which is important to me, because I want to expand the viewing audience. You know, outside of not just the indie wrestling or independent wrestling community of fans that are very set on that, and that's a group of people, the people that are AEW fans, WWE fans, and then the general wrestling fans, and then you got MMA fans and people that are fans of neither. And how do I make this all overlap in some way? We can't have them all, but if we can get a chunk of all of them, you know, we could really bring in new people to wrestling at large, and MMA potentially, but also get people that maybe never overlapped to now be in the same place at the same time. It
kind of reminds me of like when I was a little kid and I watched like Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect, or even Bret versus Michaels in the Iron Man match, where at that point in my life as a kid, I didn't have any appreciation for wrestling matches. It was the pageantry, it was the characters, it was the cartoon show. And then all of a sudden it's 1991 and I'm watching Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect, and I find myself as a kid like, oh, I've just, like that, I like wrestling matches now. That's the gateway for me to like this wrestling match. And I feel like there are a lot of people who turn on Bloodsport, and it's because maybe it's because Natty's there, or maybe it's because whatever it is, right? And all of a sudden you go, oh, I get it. I have an appreciation for grappling now. I have appreciation for jiu-jitsu now, because you know, I think that as much as the world of combat sport and pro wrestling overlap, there's also like huge segments of that audience that do not go near the other territory.
Yeah,
true. And I think that this can become that kind of gateway.
That was one of the goals with what I was trying to do when I took this whole project over. And I know someone's going to come around and be like, well, technically, Matt Riddle's Bloodsport that's its own thing, in my opinion. As soon as I took it over, it is not the same as that first Bloodsport show. And there's also, I've seen someone be like, oh, technically there was a show by AIW called Bloodsport that had... shut the hell up. Like, it's not the same show. It's just not even close. And we're not related. I think AIW is great. You know, Shayna was their champion for a long time when she was doing the indies. Great promotion. But it's...
The strength is not in the name Bloodsport.
No, it's not at all. And for me, it was like, also, you notice like the logo changes, everything. You know, I didn't want to have, for one, I didn't want to have anything that we can get sued over.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah. So like, that's the movie's logo font and everything. It seems like a bad idea. Oh, and the theme song. Ugh. Dicey.
It seems limiting.
Yeah.
It feels like we have to stay very small.
I mean, I love how punk rock Brett is, for sure.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, man, we don't need to get sued potentially for anything.
Yeah.
Plus, it'd be like, why you don't sue us? We don't have any money. But I wanted it to have its own identity. I didn't want it to be tied to something else. I didn't want it to be living off of somebody else's nostalgia. I wanted it to become its own nostalgia for those that buy the ticket and take the ride.
How did communication start with WWE? Like, how did that relationship really click in to the point where it was like, yeah, you can use our talent? And I know that, I think it was one of the WrestleMania shows that like people had
Bloodsport
pictures
10
that Nick Khan had gone to and everything, right. And that there really was this sort of like, yeah, we see what you're doing, dude.
It came from years before any of this ever happened. I had Shayna Baszler obviously in the WWE, but I've had a lot of athletes that are attached to me in WWE over the years, and through that I had made relationships with people like Triple H. And
when you say attached to me, you mean like you train them?
Yes, train them, work with them.
Sure.
Yeah, or even there were some WD athletes that would come to me when they would come into town. They'd hit me up like, "Yo, can we train? Can I learn from you?"
That's cool.
And they'd either come to the MMA room we were training, or they'd end up at the garage in the back of the house, my little gotch garage, so to speak. Some great stories there. But anyways, it just always having conversations, and for most of the time it was, yeah, no, not this time, sorry, and to me, I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't actually expect you guys to allow me to use your talent per se, but I'm down, to do something that's going to benefit everybody and give the best wrestling match that I can put together to these fans out there, and for these wrestlers to have that experience as well. And I just was always consistent about it. And, during the Vince era, of course, like, nah. But as things have changed, Nick and Paul were just receptive to it. And they just one day like, okay, yeah, all right, let's go. And while I have personal relationships with Nick and Triple H, business is business, personal is personal. And the business side of things was just me being like, look, I am a wrestler's wrestler. I've been trained by incredibly legit people to bring into this business. I respect the business a ton. In fact, my approach is, I'm sure, considered, caveman in this day and age, but I love it. For me, even MMA is included in this. So as an MMA fighter, I'm still a pro wrestler. It's just one side of the same coin, shooting or working. And just by being a professional and earning trust, WWE said, okay, and it's not as if there weren't examples of all these people from New Japan Pro Wrestling and AEW and NWA and ML. Didn't matter. Like, come on, like, this is a neutral ring, and that's
right.
The way I want it to be.
Right, and it does raise that sort of like, this is where the wrestling world comes together to really just fight it out and see who's the better person. For you, like, I'm assuming you've been a pro wrestling fan since you were a little kid?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So when you're in MMA, like, it's interesting that you just said kind of two sides of the same coin, because I think usually people talk about, okay, I was in MMA. Maybe I'm going to switch over to pro wrestling, or if you're Brock or one of the the rare ones,
go the other way.
Other way. Was that the case for you, or did you always kind of truly see it as combat is combat? Pro wrestling, MMA, it's all one universe.
Actually, I saw it more like one of the things that makes us all the same is that we are fighting for the entertainment of the fans.
Even in MMA.
You're not fighting in front of nobody.
Right.
You're not in an empty, you're not in an empty swimming pool fighting with just like 20 people around you shaking dollar bills. You are in a big arena, and you are trying to draw money off of your name value and what people want to see out of being at fights, especially as it concerns you. It's the same in in pro wrestling, and the story is basically the same, even though one is predetermined and one is not. But it's the same stuff. It's all combat. Everybody knows that the winning and losing does matter to a degree, but it's really more how you go about it than anything else. But it's all pro wrestling.
How do you switch in your brain though? Because in MMA, you might have a story in your mind, but like you're fighting for your life.
Well, you're not trying to complete a story in the same sense in
Right.
an MMA match. You're just trying to kill them.
Right.
And the story will be however it turns out.
I see. So it's less like maybe I'm not the full author of this story. We're just here.
You know what? This is my moment. We'll see. What my pen looks like tonight, or is it going to run out of ink?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I personally think that even if let's say you're doing it on the pro wrestling side, you're putting together, you're doing a match that's predetermined. Your approach and your attitude and the feeling inside you should be the same.
Yeah.
Because people don't want to go out there and watch someone, okay, in their mind and in their body, transmit that like, okay, and so I'm waiting for this moment to happen to do this thing, and then we'll do this, and then at this point, no, people want to see. I hate this person. They double-crossed me, and I'll never forgive them, and I'm so livid about it. Like, this is the only way that this can be sorted out. And you want to see somebody that looks and feels and emits that. If that's what's going on, if that's what we're supposed to be watching, then you want to see that. You don't want to see an actor looking for the next line in his head as he's about to say it. It doesn't come off as sincere or real.
Yeah. At what point in your life did you, like as a fan, or maybe it was when you were training, or I don't know, did you start to kind of break down pro wrestling kind of piece by piece the way that you do and intellectualize it, to use that word again, where you're going, here is what this is, without attaching emotion to it, without, being a tortured artist about it. Here's exactly what this is.
I think that would be more along the lines of when I got into professional wrestling in New Japan, and then it becoming really a part of my career in that sense. Mm-hmm. And as much as I like, or I enjoy diving into things and exploring the deeper meanings of it and attaching them and seeing how they relate to older historical things and things around just human nature itself. However, what's also funny is I love to just leave people in the dark as much as possible. I think that's honestly the best, because that's where all the questions, all the asking, all the what ifs, the wants, the maybes. I mean, that's where all the discussion lies. And as soon as somebody thinks they know it all the way, that's often a lot of times where then the passion is gone. It becomes mechanical. Whereas, and I'm not saying it's going to be the same for everyone, because there are some mighty autists out there that it will never slow them down. And that's great. I applaud those people a million times. I love them. But I still love, as I like to say, everyone should be a mark for something. And I still love being a mark for the things that I love. And by, like, let's say, even now when I was doing commentary, I would not want to know the results of things because I wanted to react naturally to what we're seeing. But the other thing is, with having nothing to do with commentary, just being a biased, I don't want to know the results of anything. Yeah. Don't tell me how the match is going to go. If I don't need to know it, I don't want to know it. I just want to watch it. And and within that, if you can pull that kernel of emotion out of me, then I love it. If you can't, then okay. Then if there's a discussion afterwards, I can think about why that may or may not have been the case and whether that was you or me. But ultimately, I just want people to leave their brains at the door to a degree and just live in that moment with all of us.
Which is why Unreal is just not a show for you.
It's not a show for me, but I also understand where it comes from.
Yes.
And also, much as I have to admit, Pandora's box has been opened a long time ago, but not just that, but social media, whether intentionally or unintentionally, keeps breaking things down.
Right.
And it's not just wrestling, but other stuff. So I'm not the audience for that, but then I don't think anybody ever builds anything for me as the audience because I'm so particular. But the one thing I could say is I I can see also how you can use such a platform to even continue to work an audience. Potentially.
100%.
Now, I mean, I really, if I was to do something like that, that's what I would do, because you want to, and as much as people would hate to hear this, trust me, you want to be worked. You want to be worked. It's just way better when you are. And it's just so much more enjoyable. 99% of you out there. And I know that 1% of you will be screaming in my mentions, but it's not about you, bro.
Yeah. And I honestly, I could not agree more. Like there is a feeling of like, when I'm at a WWE show and I'm there in a professional capacity working for WWE and something happens and I can still jump out of my seat and then go, like you were just saying, go react to it organically and just be the exact same fan that I was when I was 10 years old. I mean, that's the magic of it.
That's lovely.
It's the best.
It's such a fun thing to experience, even as you're, however old you are and you've had the world weigh and wear on you long enough, and being involved maybe to such a degree with something where you've gotten under the hood so deeply that it can be hard to shut off that analytical side of it all. But when those moments do occur, boy, it's great. You get to feel like you're, 10 years old again, and it's awesome. And the WWE is doing that on a regular basis, which is fantastic.
We're going to take a break. Are you cool to hang out for a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a break because this is my friend over here, DJ Who Kid, that I would like to join us. And this is, my favorite thing now. DJ Who Kid I've known forever, and he's popped up in the wrestling world here and there. He walked Swerve to the ring in Wembley, and he did a spot for TNA recently, but he's an idiot. And he's so far outside of this world of wrestling. But now, as I've kind of brought him into my wrestling circle, the one other person that I've introduced him to was Gerald Briscoe.
Okay.
So I feel like you being the next person that he meets, like we're going into like full on graduate level stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it. We're gonna take a break and we'll come back.